And then usually, as in the US, something that's common after the president gives his, or hopefully soon to be her, State of the Union address, there will be a reaction. So people are able to give their 2 cents and their responses to that State of the Network address. And so we want to definitely save as much time as we can in order to have people's reactions, ideas, and discussion about what we've just shared with you. I'd love to hear some responses or thoughts about how to move forward or what strikes you.
Can I just jump in here and say this is really awesome, all the work you're doing, and thank you so much for putting everything together like that. But at the risk of repeating myself, I would like to say, you guys, some of you probably know this book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, where they talk about a paradigm shift. And he looks historically in physical sciences, how paradigm shifts occur. I think our work has always been like on the cutting edge. And like you said, this kind of like seize the time, because everything we've been saying about inequality has just been like so, obvious to everyone in a way now. And so my thing is that like participatory action research is a paradigm shift for all the social sciences. And it's a way to just get rid of this, all this academic arrogance and really blindness. There's people just so apathetic and blind. I'm going crazy over here watching, Trump and all his madness. It's like, but I take counsel on the fact that what we do is, like you've said, we've had all this experience. And so it's like, at first, when we've been talking about racism in this honest way with Carla and my international students, I was kind of like really depressed and kind of panicking, because if you just focus on all the racism that's going on, it can make you crazy. But then I was like, just like realizing how much we've been doing over these really 25 plus years, and it gives you some confidence to just like go forward and keep making good things happen.
I agree. I love that. Marjorie, I know you had mentioned that you might have to go soon, and I know you had some thoughts on this as well, if you wanted to chime in.
Thoughts. I feel like I have many thoughts and no specific thoughts. So I'm just thinking, I'm really truly amazed at how much has gone on during the pandemic. And, when the pandemic first hit, I did hear in the airwaves, lots of people saying this is a time to reformulate and rethink our priorities. And it felt like some really profound lessons were being learned on the planet. Briefly. And then it felt like we just went back to the same old in school districts and all the debates over opening the schools or not. We're losing sight of the big picture of what are we opening for? What do we want to do? How are we educating children to reimagine the future? Not just to get back because we're losing something, the learning lost. So that so I, I guess I was a little uncertain that UC Links could be the answer to, or could have, not just UC Links, but I thought of Bruin Club, because so much of what Bruin Club was about being in that space together, in bodies, on land, in connection with each other and with materials and creating things. And I was reluctant to turn that all onto a Zoom connection. And for a variety of other reasons, we didn't do Bruin Club virtually this year. But now I'm feeling like, wow, a lot of things happened that it would have been cool to be part of. I certainly feel like I've been part of it in others, like this whole transition online and discovering through. I'm sorry if I'm going on too long. I'll stop. Just very quickly.
No, I was saying, no, you're not going on too long.
Well, and just discover, and I'm looking at my hair that needs to be combed, but just discovering how technology can be a tool to connect us, and how you can have this feeling of belonging and connection despite the limitations, despite the 2D-ness of it. And yet, it's on the one hand, and on the other hand, in some spaces, just this frenzy to kind of get it online and do the same old things in online. So I think we can speak to the doing differently in this space, and also just disrupting the, even though we want to stay connected to our local communities and our histories of experiences on that land and in those places, it's also pretty cool to be able to connect around the world. And that's a model we can bring into this vision. So I don't know. I didn't think I had anything to say, and then I just spoke a lot, but happy to keep thinking with y'all. And I had proposed this edited volume just because that's what academics do. We write books. But I don't know that that's the best vehicle for anything. I mean, certainly I think if we do some kind of edited volume, knowing we're speaking to a certain audience, we should also do, something more interactive and dynamic and accessible to the world.
Yeah, can I add something?
And I'll
I
stick
think
8 minutes more.
I think like that's totally like crucial, like seeing technology as a tool that can afford like meaningful interaction. And I think that we all, and also K-12 education, have been witness of how we can actually use it and how we are all capable of collaborating, because people were not that open to it, but now that we are quote unquote forced to do it, people have come to realize how powerful this collaboration can be, right? And I mean, I think like I don't know, I'm a huge fan of, and it's very related to Marjorie and Tom, what they were saying, like research is indeed important, but I love when academic or like people like all of us like sit down and produce something that can be consumed by quote unquote the regular people. Like where, yeah, research is important to prove that it's actually working, but I'm also a fan of like producing something that a teacher can just read and they could be like, oh, you know what, I can apply this to X, week number 2 of my curriculum. This is perfect. I can adapt it. I can make it work. And I think that's the potential UC Link has as a community of color who are more oriented to the practice and making a change than just like the theory and the numbers. You know what I mean? So yeah, we can say the number for a journal because I mean that's part of our job, like Marjorie said, right? But I would imagine, to me, in my opinion, this is my humble opinion, and I may be wrong or I may think differently. I think like the power of UCLA would be like if we produce something written, I would love to see the two things. One is like more practitioner oriented, so people can actually see and find like a like the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, oh my gosh, this is what I needed for my class, whatever. That would be amazing. And second, I don't know about like, there is something that I was witness when I was back home in Colombia, that we have the idea that all the big journals, they have to be in English. And if they're not in English, then they're not a valid. No one is gonna read that. So I would imagine, I don't know if this is possible or not. Like I usually I mean, if we produce volumes or whatever, I would imagine UC Links volumes breaking two mindsets. One, as I said, the just like fully academic and make it more like practitioner oriented based on research, and another one is breaking the idea of English is the only way to go. I would love to see, and I don't know if this is possible, like a UC volume being honoring the multilingual communities we are all serving. So imagining like yeah, most of us will be writing in English maybe. I mean, I can write in Spanish as well. But like for instance, if we want people from Spain or from Japan writing their pieces, if they want to do it in Spanish, they are more than welcome to publish that chapter in Spanish. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like that would be something beautiful to see, like a group of scholars, like just like destroying the kind of like monopoly. Like, oh, you need to do it this way, and if you want to produce something for a book, it has to be fully, um, like research, like a research paper only. I don't know. That's something I would love to see because I know that most of the UCs, and also I know specifically that UCSB, they really like value practitioner pieces, but that's very uncommon. Most universities are always like, if you don't publish research based or like a research paper, that doesn't count fully as a publication because you're not doing real science. And I mean, when we're serving education, where's educators? I mean, they need to consume something that is like, they don't want to read like 20 pages of a methodology and statistics, and then there is nothing they can grab from that paper to put on practice because the curriculum is behind the scene or the activity design it was not even published. So that would be something I would love to see if we decided to go with some sort of kind of publication or production as a community. I'm sorry, I talked too much.
I put something, I think that's awesome. And I think Marjorie and I, when we had talked about this idea, the edited volume before, also offline, we kept coming back to that same idea too. It's like, maybe it isn't the edited volume, but it's like, maybe it's a both and. Like, we do, part of the people in this network are university people, and they need to be able to get academic credit for their work in the currency that they work with, which are publications. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the other half of this network are community. And so what are the venues what are the maybe we expand the range of activities and the resources to the activities. So there's activities that are useful for community members, for sites. I just attended this conference for site coordinators through the California State Network of after school programs, and we had various jam boards of sharing different activities and whatnot, and these were people who were on the ground, and I shared the UC Links resources page and their minds were blown. Thank you so much for joining, Marjorie. We appreciate you. Yeah, and there was they were like asking over and over again, like for oh, can you send that link again to the web page? And then I was talking later with the people who were putting the conference together, and they're like, man, everybody's talking about the stuff on the UC Links web page and all the resources that you shared. So and I think being conscious of all of those communities, all of those audiences in whatever we're producing, however we're trying to share this message, I think resonates with me too, John. And I just put a plug in the chat. I put a link to Cultural Praxis, which is a website that is kind of an arm of the Mind, Culture, and Activity Journal. And it's really about kind of the coming together, the nexus of theory and practice. And there's a whole range of pieces that are published. Some of them are thought pieces. I just published a dream that I had the night before the US presidential election, where I was like literally underwater, and the boat driver was telling me, well, you're just going to have to hold your breath until we get to the surface. So it was this feeling of, oh my God, I'm just going to have to hold my breath until this election is over. But so they have pieces that have been written by, scholar activists, and they have video series. And so it's a really interesting place that is being developed right now as a place for other dialogue and conversation from a range of people from different backgrounds, and it's published in English and in Spanish right now, and I think there's even been pieces published in Russian as well. So that's a really cool example. Lorraine, speaking of language, I don't know if you have any 2 cents to add in from your perspective here on thinking about going forward.
Yeah, so of course we've been working for many years with Olga's assistance in developing our model, which we are in, a big evolution with preserving our traditional indigenous language of the Sampasqual and the other Kumeyaay bands, which are in San Diego. And we're really over these past years making that connection with how that can really support students in their self-esteem and identity, but also in their literacy and their family literacy by including parents and the community to support their efforts in early childhood education and learning as they're, finding their way through the public school system. And so that's really been a grounding base for us and able to support our students simultaneously within the community. So we're grateful to Clase Mágica and their model, and being able to see how it can go across to other languages and involve literacy, learning, and community. Thanks, Mara.
Yeah, love that. Maybe they could have some kumie on the Cultural Praxis website, right?
Oh, yes.
That would be really, I think that would be a pretty powerful piece for you to, if you were ever interested in sharing more of your work, that could be a really interesting place to share that.
Because, San Diego, I think, has really benefited. And so, we're just kind of coming out and blossoming with this. And so we're really happy about all the work that's been done and all the partnership with UC San Diego and UC Links.
Yeah, I think that would be really powerful. And it's just a great way to, like we were saying, like get these models, get these knowledge, get this learning out there. What about other reactions, Betsy or Zahara? You don't have to talk. Just wanted to make sure I made space for you if you wanted to. Had any?
I'm just feeling I'm working so hard to prepare for my class, my UC Links class next quarter, and we finally just reestablished contact with one of our sites that's been silent, in part because they're full-time.
Club Proteo?
Oh, no.
Oh.
We've been doing that all along. John's our coordinator. We've been working with the kids all year. No, St. George.
Oh, right.
They lost their full-time staff person, so they have not been able to do much at all for their community. So if I seem a little distracted, it's because I'm in touch with the person who's now running things, and it's a big step forward for us. And so anyway, it's day-to-day life is taking up my mind power.
Understandable. Yeah. Well, if there are ways, I know you have great resources there with Diana, who's already been teaching the class, and all the great support of the amazing, John and the other students who are doing such great work on the ground too.
Our team's great, and Diana is clearly our emergent leader as Richard and I ride into the sunset.
But if there are other ways that would be helpful, or that's what I mean, like with this, and thinking about the conference coming up too, it's like I want all of the ways that we come together to be useful and practical ways to people who have so much on their plate and so much that everybody is grappling with, right? And so how can we come together to leverage the knowledge that we each have, both individually and programmatically, so that we can kind of work smarter and not harder together.
Everything's harder these days, though. That's part of the problem.
I just wanted to give just an update of what we've been doing with Amy and Becca just of recent. It's been very energizing. Because of COVID, just like everyone is being affected, we were really, really so affected that we wouldn't continuously work within the community. But then Amy and her team, including Becca, were in position to work with us on the well-being curriculum, and we have contextualized it, carried out a pilot study for the different groups of students that we are working with, and it really went amazing. given the fact that children have really been very traumatized in this process. They gave very nice feedback because the curriculum engaged them so much to do with how they feel. Do they feel protected? Do they feel safe at home? And they did not really feel even safer at home. And some of them said, we don't know what safety is if we are at home and we are being excluded on things by our own parents, which was really very much touching and showed how relevant it was to create a collaborative environment for children to work together with their parents and guardians. And we are learning more about the curriculum, but so far the pilot went so well. And yeah, we will be having a meeting with Amy and Becca next week. My team and the UC San Diego team to see how further we can scale up the program and also include different partners. Yesterday, I had a partnership meeting with one of the foundations called Utopia Foundation, and they really do literacy programs for children. And so I was speaking about the well-being curriculum, and they said, oh, we have lots of books to do with well-being. And the good thing is that they contextualize the literature to really resonate with the local experiences of the children in Africa, including Uganda. And I really found that so resourceful.
That's so inspiring. I mean, it's just so amazing that, you know, the connection that you and Amy made last year at the conference, right? That you've been able to build on that, and even in the time of a pandemic to still just like not just build on it, but to like, you know, like take off and just soar and fly and like be able to create. You've already conducted a pilot and you're moving forward. I mean, that's just huge congratulations on that. That this work is so difficult in the best of times and just absolutely can be excruciating in the worst of times. And I know that work is so hard, Zahara, and I thank you for doing it, because it really is inspiring for all of us to see those kinds of successes. And I think it, for me personally anyway, it helps me keep doing this every day.
I just want to thank you all once again. I'm going to have to go because I'm late to my McNair program, but I wanted to be here and share with you all. And Zahara, thank you for coming. I love seeing your updates on Facebook. John, you know, much love from me to you. And Tom, can we please restart those conversations on Thursdays? I'm getting messages from the ladies going, why are we not having them? And Betsy, I look forward to getting to know you more and working with you in the future. Boss, I must go, but thank you for everything. And I will see you soon, okay?
Thanks, Carla.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, Carla.
Yeah, she's amazing. She helped this magic happen for sure. Well, we've kept everybody. Go ahead, Betsy.
I was going to say I should go too.
Yeah, and we've kept everybody over. What a surprise. There's always so much to talk about. Were you going to unmute and say something, Tom?
I just wanted to thank everybody for a very cool meeting. And all your work. And
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I was wondering if we could do, like, after the conference, maybe like these meetings every week somehow, maybe to share them or something with international students.
Sure, I'm always happy, definitely, to you know, I can make time for sure to put. You mean just to have like a weekly office hours, basically?
That's what I was thinking.
I'm all for it. Yeah, and I think I mean, hopefully with the conference, you know, we really want to focus on like what's useful, and like, are there collaborations that are emerging, especially around like an edited volume. Like, what might those themes be? And maybe there are maybe different groups would want to come together, on a weekly or biweekly or whatever basis. So our office, I would be happy to talk with you all every week. There would be nothing better. Like, why in the world wouldn't I want to see all you wonderful people every week? That's the best part of my job. So we can easily institute that if it seems like that's something that people would want. I wouldn't want people to feel overwhelmed, and we can also adjust based on, what the needs are that we discover and together at the conference too.
Cool. Because I'm kind of anticipating we're going to have a lot of work in front of us. So it might be nice to meet every week,
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think if people it seemed like there was a lot of the idea of coming together around an edited volume, or, as a starting point and figuring out what the other mediums might be, but trying to figure out how we do come together, what groups there might be that gel and kind of organically arise, because I imagine it would be very cumbersome to try to collaborate across the whole network, but maybe if there are subgroups that form within the network who are focused on kind of common themes or ideas, that might be more manageable. The Padlet that I just put in the chat there is really focused on those questions of, what are the questions that are framing our work, and what are the ideas that we would really want to work on to try to help form some subgroups maybe, and then figure out what are the ways to support those subgroups as they work together going forward, to cohere around a collective, getting back to that question of what can we do collectively that we can't do individually. So I'm open to all ideas for sure. So please, if you have more ideas, dump them in the Padlet, keep them coming. Let me know what else we can do at our office to help support it and make it happen, because we're definitely invested in doing that.
I could start just sharing my overall reactions. I'm just so happy and proud to be part of this network. I think that, especially this past year, I think the work that we do has just been so much, like, even more poignant. And I guess my thoughts are for the upcoming UC Links conference. Maybe we can have some breakout discussion. I imagine you're probably planning this, but like breakout discussion groups, and just giving us all a chance and a space for really expressing what it's been like. And I think you obviously have a sense of that. But there's always something healing about us having a space where we can share a little more on the ground about how hard it's been, and um, just hearing from each other. So we, already know we're not alone. It's been really important for me, just leading all the different programs that I do, to know that I'm not the only one sort of, figuring out how the heck are we going to get through this difficult period. And just having that space, I think, would help. And maybe from that, kind of connecting our vision for this youth summit, that I think will also be an equally healing space for so many of our younger co-learners and co-researchers who have been struggling. And I don't know about other sites, but I have partners in schools and outreach programs that are grappling with the upcoming transition to in-person instruction, which is for the Santa Barbara County, or at least for the Santa Barbara School District and the surrounding space. It's going to happen on March 8th. And I'm just so worried about my colleagues because I think there's this misunderstanding. Like, I think it's easy to think of teachers as sort of like this entity away from you, but those teachers, a lot of them are women and mothers of young children, and who are taking care of, elderly, older relatives, and who have experienced great loss, who have, been sick themselves. And so I'm seeing a lot of divisive, like there's a lot of tensions, and how we can be a support to kind of smoothing. I don't even know if that's the right word. I don't know. I just know that I feel already called to support, and I'll be grappling and figuring out what that would look like. So that's just me sharing, and just overall, just thank you, Mara and Carla, for constantly providing a community space through these coffee chats, these happy hours. I mean, I think it's brought us closer together as a community, is my opinion.
I just had a follow-up question too, because I was looking at the chat and I saw Katie's comment that we won't be able to be in person. And I heard people and I see people agreeing, and I wasn't sure, were they agreeing with Katie's comment or with what Diana was saying at the moment? And Kathy was saying a moment at the conference would be great. Is that a moment to collectively like say how hard it is, to acknowledge that, or is that what, just wanted to clarify?
Fit so well with Katie's, I left it as that kind of ambiguous reply. Also forgive me as I eat my lunch.
Oh yeah.
But
just having a moment to actually be at the conference, is that what you were saying?
Well, I don't know. From what I caught of Diana, I hope I didn't misunderstand
both.
It, but yeah, just this idea of having the ability at the conference to almost heal like with each other. I think we're all yearning for that. That we see each other, I think, as like-minded individuals in the way we work with community within the colleges we're at. And so I think a moment of healing where we can all just share what we've been through, what we've learned, what we hope for, to have community. I think that's what Diana was describing, and I really feel I agree with that. And I think with what Katie said, more so because we won't be in person, what we usually get, that kind of in-person reflection, deep breath, we're not going to have that. So how can we make that possible online? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. In fact, I think often of Whittier and all those wonderful, I don't know, I guess they're different experiences. Carla did a nice job of doing an overview of your different chill out, and I'm wondering if there's some kind of um, creative activity we can do together. And when I'm thinking of healing, I'm thinking of all the different weird ways that we can be with each other. Art, whether it's in something like the application of Gather, where we had a different avatar and we were moving around in the room. Um, or, I think we were thinking about that for maybe a little happy hour gathering during UC Links, and there's just, but I can imagine, Catherine, maybe there's some art activity that we can create together. Like maybe we get in breakout rooms and create some sort of visual meme according to our group of what we're feeling and how we're grappling with the realities. Just ways to get out of our head, in ways that we can bond closer in relationally, because it's easy to take everything and put it into an academic perspective, but I need buddies
Just from the Whittier end, like I definitely, I think you made me think my teacher / fifth dimension brain was on, and how could we do this? And I think, we have the 3 different breakout, like the way at fifth dimension, what our hope is, our goal is that we have the 3 different rooms for the 3 different types of children, like personalities, and not just children, because maybe one day you're a chill vibes type of person, and maybe the next day you're a spill the tea type of person. But the idea of that there's different rooms because you have a different vibe that day. You want something different. And so we can provide the same theme. We can all the rooms are doing the same thing. They're all talking about traveling, but they're doing it in different ways. So I even think about that for the conference. It's even possible to have a set, like during a block of time, we have 3 groups and 3 different ways of expression. And we can have a chill vibes group of people who maybe want to draw out how they have felt and then they share. Maybe they have people who in the spill the tea room who just want to talk about it and just converse and talk it out. And then we have an interactive room where something hands-on, you're doing something tangible to it. So I mean, that's where my brain went, but I think that's totally possible in creating a space that is driven by some type of activity or something.
I think those are great ideas, Kathy. And I think if you're open to it, we'd love to work with you to help structure some of the conference around that.
I just was gonna share a little to the brainstorming that you're starting, Mara. I was thinking, I don't know how to turn off my brain because I was thinking like, what kinds of themes, because when we were talking about the book and what are some possibilities, like you could do it from the different layers of actors that are involved. Like, how do we foster faculty mentorship into the UC, the university community ways of being, like how does one foster newcomer faculty? And maybe it's also, there's some about fostering critical service learning efforts. I just have a chapter under review, and it's all on the UC Links programs that I lead. That's, as soon as it's ready, I'll share it with the community. Um, but how we foster greater engagement among undergraduates, and then we could have one for youth. Like it could be like different like sections with chapters within each section. But then I was also thinking what you were saying, like maybe one's focused on activities, and so then it's cutting across the different layers of actors too. um, or one is about languaging, linguistic. Um, to me, that either way, it sounds really powerful. I wonder which one would be the lower hanging fruit to work off of. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, and I think that's a good question. I think that's why we started this Padlet, the one that I just put in the link, and it looks in the chat. And maybe some of you have been looking at this already as a placeholder for kind of what are the questions or the themes or the ideas that do frame our work. Because maybe by looking at these and seeing where there is some convergence, we can start to group them, and just by looking at where people's passions and interests really lie.
Thing I
Any-
was thinking that would be really nice. I think everybody had to be so creative in terms of redesign. Honestly, everybody had to redesign things at one level or another. And it would be really nice to think if we actually have this come up with things that are actually so important that now we would like to keep using them even when we go back to in person, right? Because I think we were all forced to be innovative and creative and change things. And so what are the things that we discovered that work in this online context and could potentially we may want to keep doing later, like in an optimistic point of view. Right.
Yeah, definitely. I think in one of the last slides that we have in that presentation was really this question of how do we connect what we've learned? And this is something that Marjorie has said before, like how do we connect what we've learned in the past to what we're learning now in order to radically imagine the new forms of equitable education? So building on what we've all done, what are the things and the things that we're learning now? Like what do we want? What tools do we want to keep? Right. Yeah, that would be a great thing to add to that Padlet, Alessandra, if you have a moment.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I also was wondering, we approach the UC Links work in different ways. I think all of us kind of do. I mean, we have a common purpose, which is to engage in community, endeavors and working along with our youth and their families and the like. But I'm wondering, like, some sites might, like some program leaders they may have a really strong research agenda where they're focusing on like, okay, what are the best practices here? Okay. And they're contending on this sort of national conversation of, you know, no, science of reading needs to be less racist, for example, or, you know, I don't know, that's within a special issue that I'm associated with. But then there are other endeavors about what are meaningful community programs, what are some best practices for fostering community-driven endeavors. So
Mhm.
then maybe thinking about the different kinds of questions that you know, inspire us. And maybe from that, we could see some are more like on theory and research, some more, others are more about practitioner efforts. Um, and how we can show that all of that is valuable, like, you
Mhm.
know, because oftentimes you're either getting one or the other, frankly, you know, when you're
Mhm.
looking at books, they're either all about research or they're all about, you know, good practices. But it would be nice to see one that's sort of a compilation of both, because that's what we're about. I don't know,
Mhm.
that's just a
Mhm.
thought I
Mhm.
have. I don't know how it'll look, but
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. That some of what we were doing was trying to reflect back to everybody, like, we see you, we see all the work that you're doing, and it's amazing, and it's important, and you know, and if you look at it, if you stop and look at it all in one place, like in this, you know, slide deck, like, wow, there's a lot. There's really a lot going on.
Mara, for allowing us to gather. I think this was great. It was great to just have this like little pause. I put it in the Padlet as well, but this was just a cool way, like you said, you just said it right now, to see everything laid out, a list of all the accomplishments we've had across the whole UC Links network. It's just a really cool way to see that summary, you know, because we catch glimpses throughout the emails, but those emails, right, are among many emails we get. And to see it kind of just as a list, it is like, whoa, we're cool. And I think
Yes.
that's awesome to see. And I appreciate you doing that for us when we're so busy, to pull us in and be like, hey, stop, pause, let's look. And I'm excited to see this even at UC Links at the conference, like an update summary of like, here's the slide and here's how many more things we added to it since we met in February.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. So just overall, like, thank you for this. This was amazing. And just same as you, I always have fun and leave with refreshed energy after any type of meeting we have with
Me
you.
too. I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much for joining. It was great to
bye.
be with you all. Thanks for all your amazing work. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.